rounds we make every day, how much we try and keep up to date, we can't keep up to date. So we're gathering all this information and we're giving it to the doctor. How do we know that the diagnosis and the interpretation is correct? We're going to get to that in a moment. Now, my final comment before we actually have the important information. The only people in this room right now who know whether or not they are healthy or not are those people who know they have a disease. Let me tell you why. Let me put it this way. Let me put it the way I ask my own colleagues. I say to them, well, when did your patient get sick? They look at me, they say, well, for what disease? I say, okay, when did your patient become hypertensive? So they say, oh, well, when they became pre-hypertensive when their blood pressure went above 120/80. I shake my head and I said, and they become hypertensive when their blood pressure goes above 140/90. I shake my head, and then I say, you're absolutely wrong. Why? Well, let me give you an example. My wife, her normal blood pressure is 90/60. Most of the women in this room have a lower blood pressure than most of the men in the room. That's why you guys live longer than we do. Okay, so next year my wife goes in for her annual physical exam and her blood pressure is 95/65. What does the doctor say to her? Oh, Mrs. Sanders, your blood pressure is normal. And then the following year, it's 100/70. And then it's 105/75. And then it's 110/80. What has the doctor been telling her for the last 5 years? Mrs. Sanders, you're normotensive. He is absolutely wrong. She's been hypertensive ever since she started trending above 90/60. Let me give you another medical fact. How many years before a patient is diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, i.e. their blood glucose goes above that 100, that fasting blood glucose goes above 100, their hemoglobin A1C goes above that magical number, how many years before that diagnosis was made can you show that they had become insulin resistant? 10 to 13 years. Why in the world didn't we pick that up? Because we didn't have the sensor. We didn't look at the trending of the information. All we looked at was the absolute value, and we looked at the value based upon statistical normative values, which mean a million people's normative values. It has nothing to do with each and every one of you. Everybody in the medical field today is concerned about, quotes, the patients with chronic disease. Ladies and gentlemen, the patients with chronic disease represents an iceberg. We are only looking at the people above the water, the ice above the water, because those are where the normative values are. It's that huge population, all of you sitting in the room right now, whose blood glucose has gone up over the last several years, whose blood pressure has gone up over the last several years, but they're still, quotes, in what we ridiculously call the normal range. To me, one of the most exciting aspects of some of the things that Don Jones presented with the Band-Aid type of sensor is we will be gathering that information on a continuous basis, because these sensors are disposable. They're going to be incredibly inexpensive. They will be like a Johnson & Johnson Band-Aid. and therefore we'll wear it. We'll wear it as a wristwatch. The simple wristwatch won't be a wristwatch anymore. Now, how are we going to deal with that critical problem that I brought up at the beginning, and that is the intellect of the practitioner? That we're going to deal with like another industry deals with every single day. All we have to do, once again, is incorporate technology that other industries use into the medical space. Now, I live in Washington, D.C., and within Washington, D.C., there are a few agencies very close to my home. One is the CIA. The other are a lot of contractors for the National Reconnaissance Organization. And the other is the NSA. The NSA is listening to everything I'm saying right now. The NRO is watching everything I'm doing right now. Now, do you think that when they do these thousands of spy satellites over Iraq and Afghanistan every day, they gather all that information and they put it on the desk of one of the analysts and say, okay, what do you see? That's ridiculous. They have mathematical algorithms. They have medical decision support. They have intelligence information support. We can adapt all of those mathematical algorithms from a very sophisticated community that knows how to analyze data and apply those algorithms to all of the sensor information that we're going to be gathering with all of the technology, the wonderful technology that you have heard today. So I'm just putting a little bit of a different perspective on how we're looking at things. Think very personally. Don't think statistically. Be very wary. Don't you dare tell my colleagues I said this. Be very wary of your physician. You need to become your own practitioner. With that said, I'd like to move on to the hospital without walls, which is really the exam room without walls. I'd like to introduce, and because their biographies are in your programs, I'm not going to take up a lot of time. I'm just going to introduce them. And I want to also warn you, since I said I'd make this personal. By the way, I watched everybody here who opened their potato chip package at lunch today. We have Eran Sandhous from Texas Instruments.
Hi.
We have Ed Siemens from A&D Medical, and we have Simon Dudley from LifeSize. And we're going to have as our fourth panelist, you. We're going to try and leave plenty of time in this session for you to ask us questions, make comments, tell us what we're doing is crazy, or add some critical information to what we've talked about. So I'm going to start with Eran.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Jay. Maybe move on to presentation. I think I'll actually take it from there.
Sure. Okay.
This one here. This one. Yeah. Excellent. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Eran Sandhous. I'm managing the marketing for the wireless connectivity group in Texas Instruments. And what I want to do today is share with you a little bit on the perspective of Texas Instruments and the technology that we're enabling, really. So we're at the core of the very products that you've seen throughout the day. And with that, we bring a very unique perspective as we see each and every one of those devices and trends happening in the market. So first, a little bit about Texas Instruments. TI has been established 80 years ago, and it's been innovating since. Started as an oil company, and today it's really one of the largest semiconductor manufacturers in the world. Headquartered in Dallas, over 27,000 employees, 30 locations worldwide. 2009, TI closed over $10 billion of revenue, and the reason I'm mentioning this is that TI is shipping actually billions of devices today. A lot of them you use in every single one of the applications that you see. So we are really spread between analog components that do everything around sampling and converting sensors and information that we see in real life into digital signals, embedded processing that processes that information and turning